Here we go. Hi, gang. Thank you for being here. My name is Litvin, if you don't know who I am, and I'm the founder of 4PC. And 4PC is a community of high-level leaders, coaches, entrepreneurs, and I wanted to bring some of them to you and share some of our stories on the journey. So here's what I want to do today. I want to in my story where this idea of 4PC comes from, what the acronym even means, why it's a 25-year commitment for me. I want to share a little bit, open the doors a little bit. It's a little bit like Fight Club. You know, what happens in Fight Club stays in Fight Club, except 4PC doesn't have to be that way. You want to open the doors a little bit and introduce you to some fascinating people, some people who I'm thrilled to call my friends, and I want to have them share some of their story with you guys. So here I am. It's 5 years ago, and I'm wondering what I do next in my life. I've had a book that's taken off and done well, and I think I have a low threshold for boredom. What do I do next? I don't want to run a coaching school. Everyone and their mother, 5 minutes after they become a coach, creates a coaching school. I don't want to spend more time teaching what's in the Prosperous coach. What else can I do? And I realized, well, I love being in rooms where I feel like I don't fit in. It's edgy for me, but I don't like being in a room where everyone admires me and everyone's saying that they want to be next to me. That's not my thing. What if I create that room myself? I have a belief if you're the most interesting person in the room, you're in the wrong room. What if I created a room where I was no longer the most interesting person in the room? So I had this idea of the 4% club, the top 20% of the top 20%. What if I take some of the most extraordinary people I know and create a space for them to come together a few times a year, hang out, support each other, be with one another, challenge each other? And the seeds of 4PC were born. And you may have heard me say, I have a distinction around coaching. I coach kings. And I coach kings doesn't mean I'm searching for who is the most extraordinary person on the planet. It means whoever I'm speaking to, I'm looking for where's the king in you? Where's that genius inside of you that maybe you don't even see? So we can draw it out. And that's what 4PC is like. We have a distinction in 4PC we call belonging versus fitting in. We don't want people who fit into 4PC. We want people who already know they belong, because your job is to rock the boat a little when you come into 4PC. Otherwise, a few years down the road, we're all going to talk the same, look the same, have the same background and experiences and be doing the same things. That would be boring. So one of the things in 4PC, it's almost mandatory, is you have to have a little bit of imposter syndrome. In London last year, where we had a 4PC intensive, I asked the group, I said, raise your hand if you think that you're the one who somehow snuck under the radar, that somehow you're the one who shouldn't be in this room, that you bypassed our people and got through our interviews. And whilst everyone else looks really impressive and they're doing things that make them look special or amazing or fascinating to you, somehow you're the one who shouldn't really be in here, because how do you fit in? And everyone put their hand up. Remember that conversation, right? And so that's my context for today. Come behind the scenes. Come and look at how real we are. How what goes on in our world, the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the struggles as well as the successes. And we'll give you a taste of what it's like being behind the scenes of 4PC. And at some point, I'll make an invitation to you. Those of you who are interested to learn more, I'll show you some ways that you can dive in deeper with us. So let's play. 3 contexts I have for today: journey, transformation, and community. Every coach, every entrepreneur is on a journey. And you know, the goal is to have that line for your journey tip up over time. But my experience is it's always ups and downs. Hopefully the ups and downs get to be like this. And at some point you forget, you're in a down moment and you realize, if you look back, oh, my down here is so much higher than the up was over there. Transformation. This is how life used to be. And this is how life is now. Impossible goals that become a reality. And then community, because there's something really special about what we do. In everything we do, I see, whether it's an intensive, we just had one here in LA, with 150 people, or whether it's in a community called 4PC. We curate an amazing community of people. So, Mark, you're a founder member of 4PC. You were here right at the beginning, and you said yes to diving in with us, and you've been with us for, this is now year 4 we're beginning, and you've been on a journey. Can you share a little bit about that journey with us?
So what I love about what you said about being the imposter in 4PC, when I first started working with you, I was pretty new to coaching. And I decided to work with you because I left my job in the high tech industry to move into this. And I said, if I'm going to learn to be a coach, I want to learn from the best. So I chose Rich Litvin. So I gave you a lot of money. And because I gave you a lot of money, you said I could be in 4PC. Right, because well, I was your apprentice.
Technically, there's a name for your programs. You're called an apprentice, right?
So I was the apprentice,
right?
And so I thought, okay, I paid my way into 4PC, even though you said you wouldn't allow people in. And what I learned is a kind of a special thing about 4PC is that there are some people who are new to coaching in 4PC, but have been really wildly successful before they got here. So for me, the thing that you taught me when I said, I'm a new coach, I'm brand new, should I even be in this room? You said, what about the 30 years of business that you've done up to now, that life experience, the business experience, everything that you did. So that helped me feel like, okay, I'm bringing my own special sauce to this, even though these other people are just so far ahead of me, which I really appreciate. Now, 4 years later, people come up to me back at the Rich Litvin intensive and at 4PC is, you know, I really admire you. I want to be like you because I've now been a coach for 5 years and I have now built a presence that has some sort of an aura when it comes with it until they get back, you know, to the real person who's behind whatever's on Facebook. So the journey has been really fun for me, being a new coach to someone who's established in the industry and also knowing my voice. So when I came into 4PC, I didn't know what I coached on. I knew I was a good coach, but if you asked what was my specialty, to now, I'm really clear. I was at a CEO event last night, and someone says, what do you do? And I just said, well, actually, I have a belief that the motivations and the drives that push you when in your 20s and 30s start to fall apart and start to turn on you in your 40s and 50s. You need to change the way you're doing things. You need to evolve if you want to stay in the game. And he was like, and I said, so I help executives and C-suite level people sustain that level of success using different tools. And he was like, huh? But I got that from 4PC.
Yeah.
That journey of figuring out who I am and that special sauce that I bring out into the world.
So I want to capture that because that's an important moment. And by the way, those of you who are in the chat, my team are the ones who are answering the questions. It has my name there, but it's not me in the chat. And I'm present with these guys. So, and feel free to ask questions. If we can't answer them today, we'll look at them later and get back to you. So Mark, what you just described is that moment what horrifies most of us as a coach. You're in a room somewhere, whether it's a party or a business meeting, and someone says, what do you do? And you have a way now of articulating it so powerfully and so distinctly that people go, oh, tell me more. And that sounds simple, but that takes years. I'm still working my way through that myself. And I like, what's that, your business card?
All the business cards I got last night from all these CEOs.
Nice. Beautiful. Well, and what was it like 5 years ago? What was it like when even the thought of going into a room, saying I'm a coach, saying what I do?
Oh, I'd be a little obsequious. I'd be a little bit of, oh, like a life coach? Well, not like a life coach. I'm a success coach. I don't know. Like I just like throw my hands up and go, I'm a coach. I don't know what that means.
So let me get a taste of everyone's journey first, and I'll come back to you. So Janine, hi.
Hi, Rich.
Hey. Janine, you were also a founder member of 4PC, joined right at the beginning, and then you took time out. I originally envisaged 4PC like a private members club, and that you could, some people might join for life. Some people might come for a year or time out and come back. Some people might spend a couple of years and they got everything they needed. And you came and played with us, and then you left, and then you came back, and then life got really real because you just had a baby. Congratulations. Take us back through time from the moment you began in this journey you've been on.
Yeah, I think to start is I met you when I was in Liberia and we were volunteering. So I want to go back to that because I went on that trip. I went with a different coach that was teaching me a very online marketing funnel system of building a business. And it was in our conversations there in Liberia, it was two things. It was one was hearing you talk about the business model and knowing that I don't work with the clients that would come in and watch 10 webinars. Those aren't my people. They're too busy. They're up to different things in the world. They're much more clear about their purpose. They're higher level in what they're up to. They're not going to come in through that same kind of marketing scheme. So those weren't my people. And then I watched how you interacted with all of us when you weren't on, when the cameras weren't rolling, when nobody was paying attention. And I like working with coaches who they be in the world is something that I'm drawn to and I aspire to, not just how you do your work, but how you live your life. So that was step one. So thank you.
Thank you for taking me back there. I remember that journey. We went to train 400 teachers in West Africa. It was a powerful experience. And I was drawn to you. It wasn't one way because you asked me one question in a bus ride in the middle of a journey through Africa that not only changed my life, changed my business and helped us go to 7 figures because of a single question you asked me. So it was totally both ways.
So I think that was part of it. I was looking why I joined 4PC. I haven't had that, you talk about belonging, that set of peers where I feel totally welcome, like I belong and challenged, right? I think for a lot of us, we're used to being the ones holding the space for others, but haven't actually had a community of peers where now in the group, I only had to step up when I wanted to. I didn't have to step up because there was a vacuum. It was all handled. And so for me, the relaxing, the relief in my system of being held in a container that I trusted, and then getting a chance to just give where it felt like a gift and an offering, not just for the group, but for me to give it, was really something I hadn't experienced elsewhere. And then I'd also been surrounded by a lot of coaches who were really financially struggling. Making very little money. I come out of kind of law and tech. I made money in other areas. I had sort of a minimum bar for what I could. I already had a mortgage. Like I couldn't do the kind of low dollar figure entrance point. That just wasn't the model that my life would accommodate or that I was willing to do. And so to be surrounded by people who were working with large clients from a dollar perspective, but also from an impact perspective, inspired me and gave me a sense of what was possible. And really, so that first year I set my sights on, it was one of our sessions, I'm working with somebody from the World Bank and met and have been working, he's in a new role now, but we've been working together for 3 years in different capacities and worked with other directors there since. So
let me take you back because I remember that story. I brought the context of magic in our first ever 4PC session. Mm-hmm. What would be magical? What would be an impossible goal? And I remember you saying, I would love to work with somebody from the World Bank, but I don't know anyone there. I've got no connections there. That would be impossible. And how long was it before you got your first client there?
10 days.
And then how long was it before you had your second client there? We're working with leaders at the World Bank.
Yeah, I think I worked with that client for about 6 months before he made another introduction.
And then those clients, like the one you just mentioned, you've been working with for years, have now gone off to have other really extraordinary roles outside of the World Bank.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that story. Somebody asked in the thread I just saw, what was the question you asked me? And the question you asked me on that bus in Liberia, I said, well, I'm wondering what to do next in my journey. And I have friends who make 7 figures in business, but they're not happy. And they're spending a lot of money to make a lot of money, and they're losing a lot of time with their family. And I've got 3 values: family, fun, and freedom that are really important to me. And you say, oh, it sounds like you have it, that you could make 7 figures, or you could have time with your family, a lot of fun, a lot of freedom. What if you could have them? And I just sat back and went, oh, I never considered that. I sat with that question for a year. I didn't try and answer it. I sat with that question for a year, and that was the first year I made 7 figures, and we carry on ever since. So that question changed my life. Thanks, Janine.
You're welcome. Well, your questions have changed mine, because that little girl playing in the other room was also part of one of our conversations.
Let's come to that when we come to transformation. So that would be interesting. Thanks, Janine. Hey, Helen.
Hey.
So you joined us in our 2nd year of 4PC, and you'd come from being, I mean, everyone's got an extraordinary story, right? Mark used to be in high-tech sales, made over $90 million of sales in his career, working with executives. Janine, law and tech was your background, but was teaching at Stanford around negotiation for years. If I'm right, the senior vice president or the vice president, I think, of a $1 billion company, that was your background, right?
Sorry.
Helen, that was...
Sorry.
Oh, did you hear?
I thought you were still talking to Janine. Yeah, I was...
No, that was your background, right?
Yes. So I was in marketing and I've worked in 6 countries around the world, and worked for a pharma company, and came here 10 years ago. And so I was running a $1 billion global business within a pharma company, and had a plan somehow to transition out and become a coach. So I met you when I was literally, I don't know, like 3 months out of corporate life.
Yeah.
Thank God I read The Prosperous Coach the month before I left. So I never spent money on building lists, or, I never wasted all of that money. That just like drained even just the thought of it just drains the energy out of me even now, having to blog or, so read the book, came to LA in September 2015, and you coached me on stage, and I spoke into the room this mission about helping women in corporate life, and you really challenged me to, how long is that going to take, and can you do it faster, and are you thinking big enough, and but I was such a hell yes that talk about audacious looking back. Like, I actually came up to you at the end of it and said, I want to be in 4PC. And, I absolutely felt like an imposter. How can I be in the top 4% of coaches when, I only started 3 months ago? I have no right. And I really, really, really want to be in the room with those people. And I'm going to be. Hell, I am going to be. And so I just walked up to you, didn't I, at the end, and said, how can I have the conversation? I am a hell yes. And then you said, I never do this. And you're in. I was like, oh my God, I'm the imposter. So, and then, what a ride it has been, just finding my voice and finding the book and the course and the business and just really.
Well, I want to hear more about that. I want to draw out what you've actually been doing. But I remember that moment, coaching you on stage in front of the room, seeing this vision you had, seeing where it was here and where it could be here. And that's the way I like to play. We have a tool now we use at our events. It used to be called the 6 boxes tool, and now it's called the 3x3 tool. But the idea of this tool is at the end of using it, you discover your dream clients are you. The way that you think, the way that you show up in the world, your values, the gifts that you have, and even the dark side of those very gifts, that's you. And so every one of you looking back at me right now, like we're reflections of one another, where we've struggled, where we have big dreams and visions. And so I saw you, and some of that might come out as we talk, like where we had things in common. That's what I see our sweet spot is. If there was a Venn diagram between extraordinary leaders and extraordinary coaches, it's that tiny overlap in the middle, where people who've got this world of success in all sorts of ways in the past, and they become a coach and they put it all to one side. It's like, oh, I'm a beginner coach. And those are usually not my people. Like, if you hang out in the pub and your friends say, you're great at coaching us around, helping us with our relationships, you should be a coach. Those are usually not my people. If you've been a leader in the world and then you've transitioned into coaching, we should have a conversation. And we did, and then our journey began. So I'll come back to that journey in a minute, Helen. Thank you for that. So, hi, Karen, you're the baby in the group because you're a year into 4PC.
Yeah.
And you came from a background as a fundraiser. and made a real difference in the world because your funds went to ways to change the world, to transform the world. You raised over $500 million as a fundraiser and came as a completely new coach.
Yes.
Hadn't had clients before. What had you drawn to us and even say yes to being in? Didn't you feel that imposter syndrome?
I still do. What drew me in was I Googled books that coaches need to have or something like that. And up came the Prosperous Coach. And so I ordered it. I read it in a couple of hours. And then I Googled both you and Steve Chandler. You had an intensive coming up in September of 2016. This was probably August of 2016. And I thought, I better get into that. I was working a full-time job. I was still a fundraiser at the time. I had gone through a coaching program and I'm a, whatever it's called. I don't know, whatever the credentials are, something. And I thought, I better do something. I love this book. I want to see what this is all about. So I came to the first intensive. I knew no one. And in the first couple minutes, I wanted to bolt and run for the door. I thought, I don't even know how to breathe as a coach. Because the intensive, you start with, let's settle into our chairs, let's breathe. And I was like, oh no, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to breathe and sigh out. And I'm so in the wrong place. And in the next exercise, it was what I don't want you to know about me. I was partnered with someone and I got into it and I was like, wait a minute. I am starting to see my people. And with each moment, as scary and as confronting and as beautiful as it all was, I felt like this, wait a minute, I am a community. I've spent my entire career building community and I get to be a participant in one like that. And this one feels real. This one feels like the one I want to be in. So choosing this community actually helped me to transition out of a long-time career and into full-time coaching. I joined, like an imposter, I joined a salon. In fact, when I had a conversation about it, I think it was with Giovanna, and I think I said to her, wait, I'm Karen Baker. I think you meant to call a different Karen. Because I didn't think that I would be right for it. I hadn't coached. So yeah, so my journey went from being a long-time career in philanthropy, transitioning out into being a full-time coach. And
well, let me draw, let's start to go from journey into transformation.
Yeah.
If I'm right, this came from, I shared that I've had a one-line business plan for 12 years now. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I wasn't supposed to be an entrepreneur either. And leadership was my thing. It was in the educational world, but I loved that world of leadership. Got into coaching. And so I made up this business plan, meet fun and interesting people. And you heard that, and you were in an airport sitting down and you said, well, who's the most interesting person here?
Yeah.
Take over the story.
Yeah. So I'll fast forward a little bit. I actually was working with a client at this time, and I had challenged that client, riffing off of what you had said, Rich. I had challenged the client, it was 3 principles of a company, to, for the next week, pay attention to what power and powerful means to you. So for the next week, every room you are in, search for the most powerful person, see what that means to you, see how you feel about power, and have a conversation with them that they'll never forget. well, I then got stuck in the United Airlines lounge and
Let
thought,
me bookmark for 1 second.
yeah.
How many of you have ever coached a client around something and then you realize, oh my God, I need to do it for myself. It's like,
Yeah. My one-line business plan is fake it till you make it. So here I was stuck and I thought, oh, I better try that out. So I looked around, the place was jammed, and there was a quadrant of seats, and I saw a enormous human. And so I said, okay, in this moment, with an empty seat next to him, and with that, I said, I'm defining power as size, muscles, height, all of it, and I'm going to go sit down next to this man. So he had his newspaper and his book on the chair, and I asked him to move it. And with this gigantic bear claw came to move all of his reading materials, and so much bling, so much sparkly rings and all. And I said, what is up with all that bling? So, and I sat down, and he explained Pro Bowl, Super Bowl rings, fancy watch. So I said, tell me about that. Who's the most powerful person in your life? And he named Jesus and his big mama and his coach. And then he said, oh wait, no, it's me, not me, but himself. And then I said, and what has been the most powerful support in your life? And he said, Jesus, my pastor, my big mama, my mom when she got clean, my foster parents, and any coach I've ever had. And then he said, and I wish retirement came with a coach. To which I said, dude, give me a big high five. And that giant bear paw gave me a slap. I said, it does, and that's why I'm sitting here. So we continued the conversation, and I had the great job of asking interesting questions and meeting interesting people. And we then, 2 hours later, he had to get his plane. We scheduled a follow-up. He became my guy. He became my client. And he is a retired NFL player. And it was a beautiful beginning of that. I don't want to say it's a niche of mine.
it is now.
I guess so.
It is now, because now, to fast forward, Karen has a handful of clients who are NFL players.
Yeah.
And is now, you're teaching at the NFL, right?
Well, no, I'm working with so I'm currently working with a joint program that's about communications and football, and working with the Football Hall of Fame with the incoming class of the Football Hall of Fame, starting this fall.
And so those of you who can't tell, Karen's 5 foot nothing, is that right? 5'2". Sorry, those 2 inches are important. Yeah. 5'2", and her clients are all 6'5". They're absolutely enormous. Any background in playing football, Karen?
Only like trauma for having a football fan of a father who made me like sit still if his team was winning.
Nice. So it's a beautiful story, and it's, again, it speaks to this idea. I mean, it goes back, and it's textbook Prosperous coach approach. You don't need the online marketing stuff. Get really, really curious with the people you're with, whoever they may be. And you've went from having no clients to, by the end of the year, having a handful of clients, making a very significant 6-figure income, 300,000 plus, with a handful of extraordinary people. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful story. Mark, I want to come back to you in this moment and talk about transformation. So there's sometimes it's fun to have external results when I can point to someone who's been in 4PC and say, look, this is what happened in a short time, in a year. Karen's got these clients, now working with the Football Hall of Fame. And sometimes, not sometimes, whilst it's fun to lead with those stories and it intrigues people and draws them in, I'm always working on the inner transformation. Will you speak to that?
Sure, thank you. For me, the reason I was successful in business was because I was driven by fear. Actually, I was driven by terror. Every people, I was asked to speak about how do you make so much money, Mark? You know, could you teach us how to make money? And I said, I don't know. I wake up every day terrified, and then I go out and I show up in the world and do my thing, right? But that drive to not be poor, to take care of my family, and run away from those fears really helped. Those are the drives in your 20s and 30s that work to get you to a certain place. When I moved into coaching, I had found something else in myself that I valued more than the money and the success. But with that came, as I started to grow, and as you coached me, and as I did different programs and did different workshops, when you threw me off of a trapeze, that kind of stuff, that fear started to fall away. And then there was this gap time where nothing replaced it. So I really was worried about what was going to motivate me to be successful. I live in a $1 million house. My ex-wife lives in a $1 million house. I have 2 kids. I have an elderly mother. How am I going to do this? And what's really shifted, and 4PC was essential in learning how to now create, to now, instead of being driven by something, to now, what do I want to do? What's bubbling up from inside to create in the world? What do I care about? And that's been the hugest transformation in my life, to not be run by fear, to be run by the need to look a certain way, to be a certain way. Because when I first came into this, I used to drive around in my Lexus convertible. I was the committee chair for the Boy Scouts. I was just all these things that told me who I was, and I had to keep those in place. And now this authentic person, that word gets thrown around, but this authentic person who now creates in the world, and I get up every day figuring out, who can I serve? What can I create? What do I want to do? And what would be fun, and make an impact? And that's the biggest change that's happened, the big arc of all the ups and downs and ins and outs of the journey.
One of my favorite stories from your journey, Mark, is when you went to give a speak to a group of military veterans, and you were nervous. Like, who am I?
I was terrified.
Okay. Who am I? What am I going to say? How am I going to speak to these guys? Nothing to connect with their world. And after you finished, because you brought so much presence and so much depth of connection, a really common question from the people in the room was, where did you serve? They felt, you're one of us. And that, for me, speaks to that deeper, that inner transformation that I've seen in you. It's been really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, that was an amazing.
Yeah. I saw someone in the thread. It's gone now. I can't see who it is now, but I saw the question was, how does Rich define leadership? Because I said, our sweet spot is taking extraordinary leaders who are transitioning into coaching. And how I define leadership, I'm gonna give an example of Kelly Childress, who's a member of 4PC. So Kelly wasn't a coach when I met her, and really isn't a coach right now. Kelly is a minister by background and works in the healthcare system. And when there's been a tragedy in a hospital, like a baby has died on an operating table, and everyone is traumatized, not just the family, but also the medical staff. This isn't supposed to happen. This is a moment when everything could go badly wrong, from litigation to upset to anger. It could all go badly wrong. Kelly's the person they call. And she takes the grieving family and the traumatized medical staff into a room. I can feel myself being moved because I have little kids, so I can't imagine this tragedy. And she sits and listens and talks with everyone in that room. And by the time they leave that room, they have this sense of grace and peace and connection to one another that wouldn't have been possible if Kelly hadn't been in that room. I would call that some of the most powerful coaching skills on the planet. And so Kelly came into 4PC with what we all have, this sense of like, should I even be here? And she's stepping into owning that that's a superpower and taking that superpower and bringing it out into the world. So she's not a leader by title, but I don't think leadership by title means anything. Those of us who've worked in corporate world or big organizations knows anyone can be called a leader and not really lead, and people who have no title but really lead. So leadership starts from the inside out. That's how I define leadership. And I wanted to bring that distinction in, because it isn't that you had a big title or a big salary that makes you a member of 4PC. It's that you know you're a leader and it comes from the inside out. Hey, Janine. Janine, will you take us back to some of those conversations? You and I have had so many of those interesting conversations. And the way I define the kind of extraordinary people that I love to work with is that a single question can shift everything, like your question to me. But take me through maybe one or two of those questions that I might have asked you, or the shifts that you've had that made a massive impact.
I think there maybe two that is just standing out. There's so many. I'm trying to figure out which would be the most useful here. But one of them, we did another call, I think similar to this a few years ago, where you were kind of just tracking through my history and my former work experience. I had spent 14 years as a corporate attorney. And so I was trying to figure out the trajectory of my work. And I only really was coaching people who were impact oriented, nonprofit or social enterprise, but all impact oriented, social impact oriented in the work. And you asked me to go back and tell the story of my work earlier, of what I've been passionate about, what I had done kind of after college, and saw the arc. And what I realized in that call was I don't just coach change makers, I've been one. And that's been the orientation or the lens through which I chose all of the work I did since I left college. And it helped me place myself in that story, and then help me create an arc to make it make sense to the clients that I work with. So that all of the clients that I have are focused on making the world better in some way. Typically they put way more responsibility on themselves, and they're just beginning to see that kind of doing more better alone or with a small team isn't working. And I think in the conversation you and I had, it helped me see that, yes, and that's my own arc, right? Like that's the same game. So I think that was one that was really powerful for me. But another one that's alive right now, is that my daughter is kind of cooing in the next room and really loud, was just last November. My dad was sick, and I was really having a kind of a hard time, and I was in the middle of a fertility journey and just really grieving. And in that moment you asked, and we were sitting down, and kind of first you said, what I appreciate is that first you were just present with me, and like we cried. And then the question, when you asked if I was open to some coaching, and I said yes. And you said, okay, is it possible to grieve and create? Because I had in my mind that I had to sequence these things. I had to go through a whole grief process, and then maybe I could start with creating. But in that moment, that one question opened the door. It is part of why I was like, okay, yes, I can keep going. I can keep creating my business and my family, even while grieving. And the third I'd share, because it just is.
Well, can I capture that? Bookmark the next one, because it's really key. You were going through fertility treatment, and that is a journey of ups and downs. And any time it doesn't take, you grieve. It's like the loss of a potential baby, and it's such an impact on you. And we had this conversation, and I cried, because I'm a dad. I got the impact on you, and we're friends, and it had an impact on both of us. And then there was this place of a question, and I saw what happened when you realized, oh, maybe I could create from this place. Mm-hmm. And you did. And you created not only, can't take credit for the baby, but the external results, the success that began to come, the fact that you dropped into relaxing, and then now you have a beautiful little baby. How old's Maya now?
11 weeks.
That's amazing. And that, for me, speaks to the power of coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we all do, and what we hope for is that one question where we see our clients and ourselves have collapsed, that because of X, the only option is Y. Yeah. And those moments when you can kind of open up one more possibility, right? One more, a little bit more freedom, a little bit more choice. Then I was able to have 6-figure business and have a baby and grieve. And all of those things can happen at the same time. And I don't know that I would have noticed that opportunity, at least not quite so quickly on my own.
What was the third one you were going to tell us, if it's still present?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I got in 4PC was about not needing to prepare. And about how do we just show up? How is our mere presence the way that we bring clients and we bring work? So similar, Karen told her story of kind of sitting down, and she didn't have like the 10 questions she was going to ask and the person, like a target list of who she was going to call. She walked into the room and kind of had that. I feel like my client from the World Bank was very similar. I gave a talk. He came up and talked to me afterwards and asked questions. I asked him if he wanted to have lunch, and I didn't, right. It was nothing was prepared. Nothing was scripted. There was no hunt or chase. It was merely about being deeply curious and deeply present. And so I had lunch with this guy. And what I noticed is that while everyone else was busy admiring him, he looked unhappy. His title was great. His role was fantastic. He was doing big things in the world. But I just was maybe the only person at the conference that day that didn't look at him and just kind of bow and come in with a sense of awe. I was just like, what else is going on for you? And what do you really want? And at the end of lunch, he said, this has been more impactful than my last 6 months of coaching with my coach. How do we start? Where do we go? Because it wasn't about being scripted. It was about being present and being curious.
I love that. One of the reasons we wanted to bring people into the story behind the scenes of 4PC is it's so experiential, because there isn't a curriculum. I've learned that part of my gift is just showing up and seeing what gets to be created in the moment. And for all of us, when we get out there and just be, that's when the magic can arise. So that's beautiful. Thank you for bringing that in. Helen, as I come back to you, I hear one of the things we're really good at is taking people's story from back there and bringing it all the way through so they see, well, yeah, I'm not just a new coach. I have this wealth of a story behind me that takes me into the next level. So that relates to you very powerfully, I think. So the snapshot of your journey is this track record.
Sorry.
No worries.
Mailman's here.
You have this journey of success. You become a coach, you're a new coach, making 20 grand or something in your first year of coaching, to making 500,000 in your second year of coaching. And a lot of that is you realizing, I have this story of my own in that world, but also a story I want to tell to help others in that world. Can you take me into that journey?
Yeah, I guess that, we tend to think, I got very senior doing what I was doing, and I, knew it very well. And so, I don't know what I was as a marketeer. I don't know, an 8 or a 9. And then you think you come back to being like a 3 as a coach. And do you remember your story, like how long did it take you to become a coach? And it's like, my whole life. In many ways, your resume in life then becomes your curriculum once you're a coach. And once you kind of see it through that lens, it's like, oh my goodness, and to your point on the 3x3, right? Your clients are often versions of you, not necessarily younger than you in years, but further behind you, a couple of steps behind you on a similar journey. Once you see that, then you really see, how much you can bring to the work that you want to do. And that really has, having you guys and having the community to really hold that for me has really helped me to accelerate. And, when the voices start and when the imposter syndrome starts, who the hell are you to do this, Helen? You don't have a PhD, you don't work in a university. Who are you to teach women's leadership? All of the nasty voices that start when you have this community around you, like, you get held. And, I changed worlds completely. I often said to you when I when I first left corporate life. Like, I'm such an extrovert. I used to run a huge team. My schedule was packed every day. And then it was nothing. And, I was in my pajamas in tears at 11 o'clock in the morning. It was like, I never regretted it, but man, it was rough. The transition was really hard. And so, I have friends that I could call, but my friends are like chief financial officers, right? And they do not want to hear from me in tears at 11 o'clock in the morning because I'm still in my pajamas, right? They're like, yeah, whatever, lucky you, cry me a river, So there was no one that I could ask. There was no one who could hold me. And there's no one that could, help me see and hold me in that powerful place. And that was, just a huge part of the journey for me. I didn't know anybody 3 years ago. I didn't know anybody who'd written a book. Right? He wrote one. Like, so many people in our community now, just like, it's normal. It's really normal. And it wasn't where I came from. And, I would have wasted years. I would have built up slowly and I would have found my voice and it would have been okay. But like, it went like that. Right. And there was someone there to call when I was crying.
Yeah. I want to talk about that piece of community. One of our greatest dear friends who passed away last year is James Butler. And I remember James saying when he came into 4PC, by the second intensive he had with us, he said, I realized I got my money's worth the moment I walked through the door, because I looked around the room and I saw these amazing people with different backgrounds and different fields. And I knew if I needed relationship support, it was him and her. If I wanted to work with a client in the corporate world, I'd call these three people. If I wanted support around money and finances, these are the guys. And I had $1 million of coaching just sitting in the room. And I never forgot that. I always move and I think of James. I'm going to talk about community in a moment, but what I want to say to those of you who are watching, I just want to get present. I moved everything. I think every time I think of James. If you're watching, here's what we say. In my community, we have what we call the coaching journey. Here comes Maya, our honorary member of 4PC. There's the coaching journey you're on. Janine, we're saying Maya's an honorary member of 4PC. If she's like my kids, she'll pull out the headphones.
Hi. Yes, she's crying, so I had to come. I'm going to have her join me.
All right.
All right now.
On this coaching journey we're on, we have different paths and different routes. And we have members of our team who are really good at helping you find what your path might be. So I have an invitation. I'll talk more about community in a moment, and we'll finish off with a little bit more from everyone on community. And what I want to do is invite you to go to the page on our website that tells you about 4PC, what we're about, some of the logistics, and what it means to be a member of 4PC. And then there's a button that says apply now. Whilst it says apply, that word application isn't just for 4PC. Application is about how you show up in life, how you apply yourself to anything you do. This journey of coaching is one that you need to apply yourself to. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be effortless, and you've got to put in the work. So when you click the application button, the apply now button, it will allow you to answer about 10 of the most powerful coaching questions that we can come up with. The idea of when you do answer those questions, they will transform your lives. Just spending time thinking about the answers to those questions and committing them to writing, it will be transformational on its own. And the moment you hit send, when you've applied to 4PC, if you think this might be a fit, if you think you have imposter syndrome already, you can see that we all do, then Mark is one of the people, Giovanna is another one on our team. Both of them members of 4PC, Mark and Giovanna both now on our faculty, who will, if it's appropriate, jump on a call with you. And they'll be there to serve you because they'll find out more about you. And once they do, they'll guide you into what the right path is with you. Whether it is for 4PC or a different way of working with us, or even something else completely different and we're not the right people for you. So go to richlitvin.com/4PC. Learn a bit more about 4PC and hit that apply button. Those questions alone will transform your life. And then we'll take you down a path where we can really support you, whatever's next in your journey. And if community is something you're missing, then, oh, that's nice. Someone said Mark is amazing from Tanner over there in the third. The community that we curate is a really powerful community. Mark, what's it been like for you being part of this community? Is there a snapshot of community for you?
So Wednesday I had 7 meetings, 2 of which were with actual real people. The rest were with my computer screen like this. And I can't touch any of you people. And being out here in my office, talking to people all day long, I don't really have a place to go and find out best practices, whine about, how hard this is some days, and brag about how fun it is some days. In our Facebook page, just this morning, one of the members did a Facebook Live about something that happened with one of her clients. And it was so beautiful. It was just a 4-minute little video, but she says, I'm sitting here alone in my office, feeling this, and I realized I have a place that I could just connect with people, and I can pick up the phone and talk to anybody, just at any time of the day. There's going to be someone who's going to pick up the phone. So that's really cool. But the real biggest piece is for me, so I've now known Janine for almost 5 years. And this journey, I could break down into tears just seeing Maya show up on the screen, because that's such a miracle of what she has gone through to grow to be able to produce and create that beautiful little girl. It's just, that is to witness that in people is amazing to me. Now I'm all emotional, so I'm not going to make any sense. So I'll leave it alone.
No, that's good, because I want that to come out, actually, because it's an emotional journey. We've been on a ride. We've actually lost 2 members of our community who passed away in tragic circumstances. One was an awful accident in Egypt, and one was a brain aneurysm. And we're so close as a community. We had births too, right? Destin's had a little baby. Janine's had a little baby. It's what happens when you're in community. One of the things I say is we're like family, and that feels great, because the family that we get by birth isn't always the family we want to spend all our time with. There's a family we get to choose to be with, and there's real power in that. Thank you, Mark. I'm glad it got emotional. How about you, Karen? What for you the power of community?
Oh, wow. So I went from being in the center of a community with, working with a team of 50 and 700 donors and countless larger community members, to feeling really isolated. And when I connected with 4PC, I very much felt like an imposter, and then realized I was surrounded by imposters. But in the best way possible, because what this community did for me was take my head out of the game and help me get in touch with my heart and my intuition. And in my transformation, what I actually didn't talk about transformation. I was a money girl. Philanthropy was my focus. For me, the greatest success in my journey is seeing that the change in the people that I'm working with, and experiencing my own change at the same time. My clients are living their legacies versus leaving their legacies. And I'm doing the same. They are teaching me how to do that as well. And it was this 4PC community that reminded me, like, whatever about the money and the people and the fame, none of that matters. It's how do I show up? How can change happen in this world? How can I be authentically me and shape myself along with helping to shape others in achieving their goals? And that was huge for me, Because Rich, whenever you talk about the dollars, like I get kind of cringy, not because I got a money thing, because what the journey is so much more important, because I've got the community around me, lives are changing, and especially my own. And it's because of my 4PC brothers and sisters that brought me to a place of be you, like be more you, be even more you, and we'll still love you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. Thank you, Karen. That's very powerful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Helen, how about you for community? Because I've seen you immerse yourself in community with us here in 4PC.
It's been invaluable. My favorite quote is from Janine about 4PC, which is, in 4PC, you can't get too big and you can't get too messy. And that is, Janine, that's just brilliant, right? It just so beautifully describes what you've created, Rich, and the space that we hold for each other. Because, you know, if you look around you in your life, especially if you've just made a change, like there aren't that many people that, you know, somebody commented on my Facebook a couple of years ago, like, you know, you've got so flash, right? All of your friends have done TED Talks and written books now. And it was someone from the UK. And they're obviously just triggered by what they see on my Facebook. And it's like, you know, if those are the people that surround you, and she doesn't, she's just on my Facebook, but you have to play small in some way. Whereas, you know, I got and I hold in 4PC, I got held, so that, you know, it's really okay to, you know, write a book or develop a course or give a TED Talk or lose your shit and cry. Both are just fine, and you'll be loved anyway. It's been huge for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we have a track record of curating and supporting some of the most successful and exclusive coaches on the planet. And that was important because they're not necessarily names you'll have heard of. We don't attract those people who want to build a million people email list and be on your Facebook feed every day. Successful and exclusive. And that's what you guys are doing. Exclusive meaning you found your tribe and you're building it with the kind of extraordinary people you love to work with. Janine, will you take us home and talk about community?
I mean, Helen used the quote that I say, is that it's a place where you can't get too big. And I wonder, for those of you kind of listening and watching, you know, where, if you had the hugest win, if you got your dream client, do you have a group behind you that you know would just cheer? Because that's what we had, was that if you can't have too much money, too big of a client, too much success, to have people just be fully kind of in the high five celebration space. And yes, some of us, there are times when I listen to, you know, Helen's talk about her business and I'm like, oh God, I want that. And then I think the next thing I'm going to do is call Helen up and say, okay, we need to talk. Right. So it's that it's not that there's never that feeling of like, oh, I want that too, but you're on the same team. And at the same time, it's a community that's there for not just your business wins, but you as a whole being. That it's a community, meaning these aren't colleagues. That's not the word being used. We aren't just here to show up and say, how did your business go? Let's talk about your numbers. You can talk about them being bad or good. But it was a place where I had an email thread when I was hoping that this little being was going to come into the world, that was praying with me and visioning with me and holding space for the realness of life along with your business. Because in the same way we hold kind of our clients' whole being, community means we're holding all of you, that everything's welcome, like Karen said. So it's been a massive gift, and I think it's hard to really go for the things that mean most in our lives, the ones where we actually really could fail, without that safety net of community. And so I think what I've heard from all of us on the call, and I know what's true in my own life, is that I've been able to stay true to the things that matter most, business and personal, because I know that there's a place where I'm held, and that's a gift.
Yeah, It is. Thank you. You remind me too that 4PC isn't so much about me coaching you. I'm not so much the coach in 4PC. I play alongside you in 4PC. You guys have heard me share my stories about my ups and my downs, my struggles when my father passed away, how hard that was, where my journey and my business has gone, had its ups and downs. And I bring all that in, and I had nothing. We have a hide nothing, hold nothing back policy that works in both directions in 4PC. So it feels good for me to be part of that conversation as well. And I love that community, and I didn't find it, so I created it. And the way I put it is this: 4PC is a community of people who are up to impossible things. So whatever you're up to that feels impossible, you look around at all these other things that look impossible, more impossible, and you see them achieving them, and suddenly the bar is raised for what you can actually create yourself. And that goes for me too. I've been stuck in some way for 2 years on the book that I'm writing next, and I'm watching members of my community flying ahead of me, which inspires me and helps me to get out of my own way. Or they're guiding me with support for me, and I appreciate that. So thank you for those of you who've been with us for the time we've had together. I haven't got time to look at the questions here, but as I'm glancing at the side, I see some really interesting people. Look, here's, if you want your questions answered about 4PC, you've got logistical questions, go to richlitvin.com/4PC, number 4 letters PC. And lots of your questions will be answered there. If you want to dive in deeper with us, hit the apply now button, because those questions that we've written for you, if you spend time answering them, real time, they will transform your life. And then you'll jump on a call with Mark or Giovanna, and they'll serve you really powerfully in guiding you with what's next on your journey. And we are continuing to curate a community of extraordinary people. And I love that. I started the call by saying this is my 25-year commitment. I got this as a distinction that this isn't a short-term project. I'm seeing where it goes. I'm in here for the long haul. We're only in year 4. We've barely scratched the surface of where we're going and what's happening. And so I'm excited to bring this to other people. And if this strikes a chord with you, then we'd love to speak to you. Come and play with us. So I say goodbye to those of you who are watching. You guys, if we get cut off right now, I love you, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you again. And thank you. And Danielle, who's handling logistics, will hit our pause button in a moment. So thank you guys. Thank you for being with us. Come and play with us here in 4PC.